We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Jordan Bowman, welcome back to the show, my friend.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you back. All right, returning. It's been over 200 episodes, I think, since we've had you on, and which is an absolute crime. For those listening, I got to spend a couple days with Jordan in Denver for the Big Tent Summit, and we were on a panel together talking about youth mental health, working with young boys and teens, and I just got so much more, I think, from listening to you and your contributions to the conversations, I think, than getting to sit in the panel and share my thoughts. Although I think some of the things I said were, pretty bang on, mate. You were just oozing experience and your 10,000 hours in working with youth and around their mental health. So we're going to dive into a cool conversation today. For those of you out there who know that you have a gift to give, you recognize that our young men and boys are struggling and they need good mentors. We're going to talk about all the ways that you can enter into some form of mentorship to give your gifts, to leave a legacy, and perhaps help you recognize whether or not now is the right time in order to do that, because a lot of people put their hand up and they haven't got it to give. So we're going to dive into all of that today. But first, my friend, Jordan, what's most alive in you right now, my friend?
Yeah, well, Brandon, I'm happy to do this every 2 or 3 years so we can keep it the tradition to keep coming back and circling this conversation around boys and young men and what's going on. I think the first time I came on, it was like, what's going on with the boys and men? And then the next one was, what can we do about it? And then this one is like, all right, it's time. It's time to act. Let's make it happen. So what's most alive in me is that there's a fire in my belly around let's make this happen. Let's scale this solution that Journeyman has piloted and many other organizations are working on. I'm feeling really excited about the work we're doing with like 30 to 50 mentors here in the Raleigh area. 100 boys and their families are being impacted by our work. And by the end of 2030, we're looking to raise that number to 2,500 boys actively mentored. So I feel at my leadership edge with this audacious scale, and really excited about getting some national attention around with PBS around what we're doing. They are filming a full-length documentary, so I'm really excited for folks to get a deep dive into the work of Journeyman. But more than anything is building a solution that I really believe in. I feel extremely motivated by that, and you heard me talk to people about this at the Big Tent Summit. Was really excited to hopefully light a fire in some other people's bellies and get them motivated to act.
Mate, the fire was lit. I can say. I can tell from the folks there, young and old, what you brought to the table had a lot of people just salivating over, yes, okay, we're all coaches, facilitators, organizational leaders, and so many of them there were looking for ways to increase their bottom line, to remain profitable, to remain, active. And your call to action was, yes, cool, money's great, and is there a paywall between the brilliance you have to bring to the table and the impact you can have and the boys and men who actually need it? And this is what gets me so fired up and jazzed because, people that know me well enough or have been listening long enough, I don't make a penny doing men's work stuff. This is my tithing. Anything I do is a facilitator fee. Mm-hmm. It makes it so much more meaningful for me. And this is just me talking, to keep those things separate. And it gives me what I need to show up in my career and make money. Yes, great, money's cool, which then funds this work and this mission. And so before we start to kind of untangle that, because I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about, okay, I have something I want to give, but what am I going to get? Naturally, I'm not going to judge anyone listening if they think about this, right? But first things first, for those who haven't heard our previous conversations, man, how did you find yourself in this work? Because you're a young dude. You're 29?
31.
31.
There we
31.
go. Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, the work hasn't weighed you down that much, mate. You still look like you're in your 20s. But man, you've been in this work since you were like young, in your early 20s and in your teens, right? So tell us a little bit about how you got into this work and why it's keeping you there.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was 14, my dad tricked me. He said, "Hey, we're going camping," and I was at a time in my life when things were hard. I didn't know where I fit in. I didn't know where I belonged. I was just dealing with a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and I was trying to figure out how to ask for help. But I didn't know that I needed help. And so I was one of those young men that on the surface seemed really connected and present, and I had this like quiet struggle. And like a lot of the young men we serve, I was sharing that experience of what's my role? How do I find meaning? What's important to me? And my dad knew me better than anyone, and he said, "Let's go camping." And when we got to this campsite, these men were talking about the emotional masks that they wear in the world, and they were inviting me to, drop a truth in the circle. And I was like, "This is not camping, Dad. First of all." But I found myself in this rites of passage experience with big brother figures and cool uncle figures and grandpa figures who could help me figure out what kind of man I wanted to become. And they weren't going to tell me what to do or how to do it, but they were going to ask me the right questions that helped my process of becoming, of my unfolding. And so that happened when I was 14, which is 16 years ago. And so, wait, is that right? Is my quick math on that? Yes, 17 years ago at this point. And it changed the trajectory of my life in such an important way that I wanted to give that back. So been around the block, became a mentor, became a board member of an organization called Boys to Men, kind of rebranded, refounded that organization into Journeyman, studied entrepreneurship in school. And the whole time was, how do I apply what I'm learning and treat my undergrad at NC State like a master's in building this organization and building this community? So really steeped in that business entrepreneurial language of like design thinking, human-centered design, and then applied that to this building community structure, specifically supporting boys and men, because it's what I needed. And it's the gift I was given, and I wanted to make sure as many young men as possible were given that same gift. So that's a little bit about kind of my background, my way in. And I'm still lit up about it. And I don't know if I'll do this forever, but for now it feels really alive, and I'm excited to keep doing it.
There's something so powerful to your dad tricking you into this camping experience where he was exposing you to, like you said, big brothers, uncle figures, grandfatherly figures. I think one of the most easy traps to fall into as a father that I find is, oh, I'm it. I'm the role model for all things manhood and masculinity. And sure, my kids are going to get the most contact and context from me. So there's still a responsibility there. But I'm naive to think that I can teach them or guide them or display the full spectrum of what being a man and masculine tendencies and everything in between can look like. And so your father, in many ways, brought you into a village where you could gain multiple perspectives and learn from different people. It's like why coaches have such a great impact on kids' lives, because not only are they building character in a sport, but they have someone other than mum and dad. I mean, if dad happens to be around, right? Because I'm sure you work with a lot of kids where that's not the case. So I think there's something so powerful in that, and something worth noting already from the jump is that if you're thinking about getting into mentorship or working with young kids, like it's not all about you and what you can give and what you can bring to the table. And don't minimize what you can bring to the table as well. So I want to jump into that point being, how have you in your journey getting into this nonprofit work, applying what you're learning in B School to Journeyman Triangle, and now as the executive director, how do you find the balance between, oh, I'm the dude with executive director as a title, and I have these responsibilities to 25x the amount of kids we're working with in the next 4 years, like that's no small task, and not put it all on your shoulders to make it happen?
Yeah, well, I think the answer is a little bit in the question is when I was thinking about my dad, and this gift he gave me of the community of men who could mentor me in ways that he couldn't, kind of set this precedent for my own leadership journey in this organization, which is surround yourself with people smarter than you, who can build something much bigger than each of you could on your own. And so I've got a bunch of like really brilliant people, and we're building out our national advisory board, and we've got a board of directors, and I've got some amazing staff. And there comes this, so I say that's one layer, is the people around you are super important. And for me, I find peace in knowing I can go to any of these circles, and if I've got something on my chest that's like really weighing down on me, I can bring that first. Because Journeyman as a model is relationship first. We're gonna deal with what's right in front of us, the emergent needs of the community and any individual in the community, and then we're gonna get into the curriculum and what we're trying to broach and talk about. So that's one layer. I would say the other layer is really thinking through, what do I get out of this? Where is my passion? Where is my joy coming most alive in this work? Designing this next level of growth is really exciting for me. And I'm a great mentor. I'm a great facilitator. And I find myself in more boardrooms and in less soccer pitches or fields now. And I'm like, wow, okay, hold on. We need to find the bare minimum amount of playing soccer or playing basketball with the boys in the program that I need. That I need to be doing that 3 times a month, because that brings me alive, where I'm just shooting hoops and like talking junk to the guys, or like where stuff is coming up and where I'm pressing into questions like, like, why did you confront that way, or what's going on there? And that brings me really alive. And so I'm finding the limits of like, this role pulls me into a very different position. Part of that change I'm excited about. And part of that I'm like, maybe actually I need to be doing more direct, one-on-one mentoring, or maybe more group facilitation stuff. Like, for example, this weekend, actually today, I'm going to facilitate a rites of passage in Asheville, North Carolina. And so I'm really excited about that. And I need to do that twice a year, just to stay in my own gift and in my own joy in this work of facilitating those sacred places where boys and men can come alive.
And I imagine that was not the case once upon a time, that you weren't able to strike that balance, or maybe you found yourself in too many boardrooms and not feeling connected to the kiddos and the young men that you're looking to serve. What did it look like when fear and scarcity was driving the bus more than vision, and I have this gift to give? When did that happen? What did it look like? And how did you set it up to be that way?
I mean, the tension is very much alive in this moment. I could think about times where it was alive, but I'll go out on the ledge here and give you the real juice in my life, which is like,
thank you.
There is a moment happening with the work affecting boys and young men that's very much alive in our national conversation. There are people talking about like the male loneliness epidemic and what's going on with our boys and lost boys and all this. There's this conversation where 5 years ago, even when I talked about the work of Journeyman, people would say, "Oh, that's cool. Well, what about the girls? Don't boys have everything they need?" And now the conversation has shifted where the need is validated. There's enough research out there where boys and men are seen as not the cause of the problem, but someone who actually, like a group of people who actually there are problems affecting boys and men. It's not the problem of boys and men, it's the problem affecting boys and men, which has shifted the conversation where solutions like ours that have been tested for 10 years are in high demand. You've got a lot of people talking about the problem and defining it in slightly different ways. And I see less platform given currently to people who have a solution that has been field tested. And so there's this tension in this moment where like we looked at the voting records, and Republicans and Democrats are interested in the young male vote. And there's, there's young men falling out of the workforce. So the labor workforce is really interested in young men. And then there's tragic events like school shooters and these different things. We're like, why are they all young men? And so people are paying attention in the way that they never have before to the work that I know a lot about. And I feel like I'm going to miss it. I'm like, we're going to miss the moment to share this gift, this piece of the solution that we have. And so I have a lot of excitement. And like I shared with you, like that fire in my belly of like, no, there's something really good here. And I want other people to experiment with it and replicate it. And yet I'm worried if I don't get on a big enough stage soon enough, or if I don't play the game in the right way, we're going to miss that opportunity and people are going to suffer. And so I have to kind of keep my excitement in check and grounded so that I'm not in this scarcity mindset of like, oh, we have to be at all these conferences. We have to be doing this stuff. And just trust that the right people are going to show up in my life. Like the right people are going to listen to this and be compelled and convicted and call me. And I'm going to know, I'm going to answer the right calls, and we're going to figure it out. Really believe in this idea that action precedes clarity. Like you take a step, you test your assumptions, you learn from it, from that entrepreneurial process. So yeah, I feel the tension right now. It's a long way to say that. And, a lot of excitement. There's a lot of driving, and I have an agenda and I have a driving force and excitement. And I'm trying to leave space, as a good facilitator would, for curiosity and emergence and people arriving at the solutions instead of me saying, here's what you should think.
Here's what you should think. I understand more now after the big tent last week, where, of course, the manosphere was the hot topic of the 3 days we were there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Louis Theroux. The Louis Theroux documentary came out. It shone
Although
a light
Louis C.K. also did some version of this.
You know what? And I'm sure there's solid entertainment value in that too. But there's, the documentary did a great job of highlighting bad players, the impact, but did very little to offer real solutions of what positive next steps, or even a counter argument or a counter approach to what is offered by these male influencers, which is what I see you offering, is in many ways the counter argument. And it has the research, it has the backing. You're not just some ripped dude taking his shirt off, calling young boys sissies, and that they need to man up and make money and control women and do these things. So I can see where the scarcity comes in, because sadly, the algorithm rewards these male influencers, because so much of what they promote is very clickbaity. There are solid hooks. Again, all things that feed into the algorithm, whereas what you're producing, what you're making available, it's harder to break through, right? It's harder to break through to these young people because you're offering like work. This is going to take work, and it's work that's going to compound and pay off in your life like you wouldn't believe, because this is not something that's typically been on offer in near history for young boys and men. Yet it's for the young kid who's so dopamine dependent on TikTok and Instagram. When they see the booty picture, when they see the dude smoking a cigar on the Lamborghini, like, they're going to get attracted to that. They're going to click on that, and then the algorithm's going to keep feeding it to them. I know you and I are like, oh wow, we're talking about the manosphere and algorithm stuff again, like, because this is a conversation we are involved in all the time. But for the listeners, I think it's really important to frame and make clear that this is the challenge for many organizations and individuals like yourself, like myself, Mankind Project, Journeyman Triangle, and other organizations, to get in front of young people and have the lesson stick. It's going to take more than just TikToks and reels. It takes going into schools like you are currently, working with 100 teens actively like you are right now. And so this, in many ways, is the opportunity that, if we're thinking long game, because like all these male influencers, they're their daddy issues are going to creep up eventually and probably get a hold of them. We're seeing them all. Most of them end up in jail and in trouble anyway. So playing the long game, it requires mentors. It requires people on the ground doing research-backed activities and engaging with young men. So, dude, I just want to wrap that with appreciation for guys like you who really consider not just holding the macro impacts of the moment we're living in right now, but you're channeling and funneling your focus into the micro ripple effects you can have on your community. It's like, you're not like, I need to make a viral video to get out in front of people. Like the PBS documentary that's coming out is a result of the micro work that you're doing in your community. I call it micro. Of course, it's very macro in the scale of Raleigh and beyond. But this is the actual work. It's not becoming a TikTok influencer, as many guys think they need to be to help young boys and men. It's actually getting the reps in, working with young people, getting that live feedback, surveying them, being a part of bigger research projects, all the things that you're doing.
Yeah. It's not a quick fix. I mean, we can discuss the manosphere briefly. It's not my, I'm not like an expert in anti-manosphere content, but I've been learning a lot about it. And I was talking to this guy Jacob with Next Gen Men, and he was telling me that once YouTube figures out that you're a young man, within 17 seconds, 3/4 of your suggested content is manosphere related content. And so there's this, what responsibility do these tech companies and algorithms have towards sending people down these rabbit holes? I think is really interesting. And then what responsibility do we have to present alternative solutions? Movember and Equimundo they launched a large grant around like providing positive content for young men to connect with on the internet. I think it's super interesting. We applied for it. We ended up not getting the grant, but there's this really interesting topic of like, what does it look like to have a wider lens of what it means to be a man, of masculinity available on the internet. I think it's really good work. I think it's really interesting to see that, because it's not just being relentlessly rich and ripped as the answer, and the driving force to like make money and to be strong is a good force that we can honor and direct in a way that doesn't subtly demean women and doesn't make, dominating people with how much money you make be the main thing. So there's a way to thread the needle. It's not like an either or. I think the headlines sensationalize like it's anti-manosphere, or you either have too much masculinity or not enough. It's like, it's not that simple.
Right? Binary.
Yeah, and so I think that's interesting, and I'm glad there's really cool people doing that work. The digital tension is one that's really interesting as well, as you probably understand, being in tech, is that like these tools can be really, really powerful and impactful for good or for evil, and it depends on how we design them and how we use them. And so we bring that up in our work with Journeyman. We're directly addressing how do young men grapple with this digital tension in their lives. I used the example at the conference of, it's like you're in the middle school lunchroom. Everyone remember the middle school lunchroom, and you're like, even just thinking about it, I feel some anxiety in my chest. I'm like, oh man, like, where am I going to sit? Like, what's going to happen? Am I going to say something, wrong, or get ostracized or get made fun of? And it's like that middle school lunchroom is now happening 24/7 and asynchronistically. So it's all the time, available everywhere, and you only have access to it if you have a phone and social media. So while there's this like anti-phone in schools movement, which I think is really interesting, and I think probably very helpful, some of the data is coming back where it's like phone-free spaces are actually really important for teens to grow developmentally. You also have to think like they're then kicked out of that entire social circle. So we have parents who come to us who say, I've looked at the research and I don't want my son to have social media. I don't want him to have a phone, but now he has no friends. Can he come to Journeyman and find friends IRL and connect with boys his age? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Like, bring them on. So there's these are kind of like the manosphere and the digital attention are like really, really there. And for me, the solution that we've kind of niched down on and care about is place-based intergenerational mentoring circles, in-person, live, synchronistic. And it doesn't scale in the way that's like, would excite a venture capitalist. Be like, here's $10 billion, journeyman, like go do this everywhere. But what it does do is it makes it real relational capacity at the neighborhood level that you just can't replace in any other way. You're not going to find that on your phone. Like when you are sitting in a mentoring circle and you're like, I'm really nervous about asking this girl to the prom. And then you're walking down the street and you see one of your mentors who was in that circle who's like, hey dude, how'd that go? Like that is something you can't replace with a digital connection. And so we should be skeptical of people who offer like quick fix solutions to things that are much deeper and much more about like relational capacity and intelligence.
Thank you for the lunchroom example, because I actually was talking to my sister on FaceTime, and my nephew, he's 13, was in the back of the car. He'd just got his phone, and he was, my sister was like just calling it out, like, yep, he's on his phone again, like hooked on it. And I got to say kind of over the car speaker through FaceTime, just be like, hey, man, I imagine it's tough because it probably feels like everyone's on there right now. And if you're not on there, you're missing out. He was kind of like, kind of his head kind of came up. And I said, yeah, that's tough because, imagine not being in the lunchroom, not getting to see your friends at recess and break. Like that's tough. And just being able to empathize rather than be like, dude, get off it, man. Like the real life happens out here. Like, you can't, digitization of your brain is like melting it, bro. All your happy chemicals are getting like that does not work. His mind is going to be like, yeah, cool. Because you see this, I think was it you or someone else on the panel who shared that when these kids get their devices taken away as a consequence, that they actually experience grief as if they were yanked out of their school, or they lost those friends all of a sudden. Like it's not as easy as just give me your phone and go play with a stick outside. There's real entanglement here, that an enmeshment.
They're thrown in. It's like solitary confinement for a middle schooler, right? It's like and then the structural capacity of our neighborhoods are no longer designed for kids. Like we used to play out in the street. We'd play football. We'd hide and seek. We'd be in the woods. And now you're like, you go outside and there's like, you're not going to meet any other neighborhood kids outside because they're all on the inside. And so you can't, if you treat the symptom without understanding the larger systemic issues and kind of environment, you can do more harm than good, I think.
And so with this awareness and this understanding of things that are at play on the macro level, of course, you've got some of the smartest people on planet Earth responsible for the apps and the devices that our kids are getting hooked into, and they're doing exactly what they were hired to do. A++, right? These tech nerds have nailed it. And so understanding the forces at play, understanding the exposure that our young people have, and also bringing in the fact that you listening right now may feel the calling inside you to become a mentor. The one thing I've found, and let's jump into it now, is that it's much easier to handle the overwhelming nature of like what is going to happen to our kids with all these factors at play when I actually get that contact with a young person and spend the time playing and getting to know them and letting them divulge and share what they're going through. So actually getting in the sandbox and playing with these young men. So let me ask you this, mate. What are the easiest ways, the lowest barriers of entry for anyone right now who feels like they want to have an impact on a young person, whether it's their own children or outside in a mentorship capacity? What's the easy first step that people can begin with that still allows them to show up without feeling weighed down by the enormity at scale of what's happening with young boys and men?
Yeah. One of the call to actions that I really appreciate actually comes from Richard Reeves with the American Institute for Boys and Men. And you should also get him on the podcast. I think He's got a really unique perspective.
We had him on the hook. On the hook, and he did Chris Williamson, and all of a sudden it was tough. It was tough in an Allen, but Boyson does still have contact with him. So, and you do as well. So maybe we can make this happen.
See what we can do. But he it's simple. It's really, I really appreciate the simplicity of the call to action. It was like every man listening to this, and not just man, but we're on the Mankind podcast, right?
86% of listeners listening right now. Yes.
Yeah. So to the 86% of listeners, you have a young man in your life that you know. He could be related to you. He could be a kid of a friend of yours. You could know him from church or from the gym or from somewhere else. And there's this invitation to start mentoring or start connecting with a young person in your life. And that's like the very simple base layer of like, ask him how he's doing, but then actually wait for the response and really practice presence over perfection. So there's like this piece of like, hey man, what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Like, is there a way for you to have a sustained, ongoing connection point with a young man in your life? And if there is, there are certain questions you could ask him about how it's really going for him. And you can pause to listen and not just project your advice or your wisdom onto him. That would feel really meaningful, really meaningful. And so there's coaches are great at this. Teachers are great at this. Therapists are practiced in this kind of relational intelligence. And I think a lot of us have missed it. And I think there are some cultural forces that say, well, that's weird. If you don't know that kid, why would you be in a relationship with him? Why would you talk to him? That's strange. That's like, we immediately think of like, Scott Galloway talks about like Michael Jackson and the Catholic Church like messed it up for all of these like intergenerational male relationships. It's like, yeah, there are bad actors out there. But my guess is if you listen to this podcast, you have some insight into what it means to be a good man. And it is not only like your opportunity, it is your responsibility to enter a mentoring relationship with a young person. If you have gone to the mountaintop and done your consciousness work and you feel enlightened in some way and you come back down and you're just like, great, like how do I make more money? How do I like protect my family? Awesome, good impulses. And what's more, how do you be a pillar in the community in which you sit? Like, how do you take that awareness and integrate it into your life and make your little corner of the world a little more beautiful, a little more connected? And so this is a real problem affecting so many young men, millions and millions of young men in the United States. And if everyone listening to this podcast said, you know what, I'm going to like begin to form a mentoring relationship with a young person, and I'm not going to do it perfectly, but I'm going to try. That would shift the needle like dramatically. And it would take 5 years to be able to measure it. Right? It wouldn't be an immediate quick fix. What Journeyman does is we provide a structure in which makes it a little bit easier. We've got the minor safeguarding policies. We've got trainings. We've got the environments in which, high trust environments where parents trust us and we trust them and we trust the mentors. And we bring in these communities of people and we're really filling the gap that these other cultural institutions have served for a long time. And so, yes, we can make it easier. You can come to us. You can ask us questions. You can go to our website. You can become a mentor. You can launch a Journeyman community in your own city. And before any of that, just like become a mentor to the young person. Walk alongside a young person. And the mythologist Michael Meade talks about how we are midwives of the dream that is awakening in the young person. Like, think about that. Like, what does it mean to help birth this dream that a young person is like cultivating slowly?
Can you say that again for the people in the back?
Yeah. Michael Meade writes, we mentors specifically, he talks about the sacred role of mentors. Mentors are the midwives of the dream that is awakening in the young person. And particularly in this context of like masculine mentorship, I think it's really interesting that it's like midwifery is often there's this play between masculine and feminine, which I think is really important for us to consider, because boys need masculine challenge and they need masculine care. And being the midwife of a dream that is awakening sometimes mean like, hey, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, wake up, like, shake them. And it sometimes mean like, dude, like, what's going on for you? Like, ooh, that must be really hard, right? So there's both. When we need both, and we need men to like get their head out of the sand and just show up. We want presence over perfection every time.
And in order to get them to listen and wake up, when you shake them awake, it takes that presence in the beginning, right? You've got to build that trust. You've got to put the time in. Immediately, I know my brain that's learned how to win in capitalism. It immediately goes to scale. So it's like, oh, I want to have this impact. I want to do these things. And what I often find is that trying to think and dream at that scale gets in the way of actually doing the work and working with that young person. So top of mind, my nephew, boom, super accessible, 10 years old, like great kid, beautiful family. What could I do to remind him that I'm there? Maybe a nephew uncle day is necessary and needed. I shared on the panel a story about a close friend of mine who was terrified before they found out the sex of their child. They're pregnant right now. And that terrified that it was going to be a boy because of what he hasn't reconciled with his own father. And that is he gonna pay that? Is he gonna just pass that stuff on? Now, without ruining the story for him, he's got to live it. I can tell you he's not going to. Not in the same way, because he's already conscious of it, already aware. I'm his best mate, so I'm going to be a great person to bounce things off. But something that really helped me anchor him back into this moment that he's going to be a father of a son, which is beautiful, is that there are going to be times where my children are not hearing it from me. It's just not happening. I can't. I'm dad. I can't break through right now. And uncle is going to be the one to go to.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I offered the same thing. I was like, your child is coming into the village, man. And you are not alone in this parenting journey or this mentorship journey or whatever it looks like. And you called it the neighborhood. It's like, how do we create the neighborhood, the village, whatever you want to call it, in our own communities in a small way? Not to see the results today, but to see the results in our grandchildren. Because of what we did with those who already exist in our spaces, who need that mentorship, who are looking for someone to listen to them and not just project all their thoughts and ideas. It's, oh, here's what you need, young Gen Alpha or Beta, whoever it is now. It's like, no, dude, they live in a different world than we grew up in. And if we listen for what they're actually going through, we can then insert some anecdotes of, yeah, man, I remember being in 9th grade. That was really scary too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. No advice. It's really accessible. So for those listening that feel that fire in your belly now that I have after having this conversation and conversations like this, head to journeymantriangle.org. We'll have links in the show notes, and there are resources there to get you started. And Jordan, what are some other great, easy places to start that may not involve bringing in an organization's curriculum to the area? Some simple, quick starts.
Yeah. Well, I first want to just respond to your perfect example of like, okay, when is Brandon and nephew hangout day going to happen? And can you guys hang out in a way where you're doing something together? You're like looking at this thing, you're like fixing the car, watching the game. I don't know. There's always, I think of like the tropey masculine things, but like you're fishing, you're doing something. And what's happening here, like relationally, as you're looking at this other thing is really, really important. And so for men who are like unsure, it's as easy as that. It's like, go do an activity together.
And for those listening, Jordan was referencing like, so if we're both casting a line into the water, we're side by side. It's not sitting them down knee to knee and forcing them to make eye contact with you.
Yeah.
It's like with your heads in the hood of a car, right? It's baiting a hook and seeing what you pull out of the lake, right? It's looking at what happens when you're just existing in space together.
Yes. And then, we started the big scale of like, what does a culture look like that actually allows men to go into the schools during the day and gives them paid time off to do this when we know it's a crisis. Those are big picture things. I'm interested to have those policy conversations with those decision makers. But when you zoom all the way down to the individual level, it's like, who are you mentoring right now, male or female? But who are you mentoring? What does that look like? And that mentoring relationship is as important to you as it is to them. It's really important to them, and it's important to you. And so you're doing life together. So you're walking side by side, and you're really like, you're not saying, hey, you should do this, or it's not the lecture style, classroom style approach. It's the let's do life together. And Gen Z and Gen Alpha, 76% of Gen Z, according to the Co-Generate report, want to collaborate more with other generations. And so it's like, we're like, well, they don't like me. They don't want me. They don't want to know my expertise. It's like, no, dude, that's ego, man. Like you actually, there's young people who really want to. And there's a playbook of how to approach them culturally relevantly, like with a cultural relevance that, caters towards their values and goals. And obviously Gen Z is not a monolith. Millennials aren't a monolith. But Co-Generate has some really good resources, cogenerate.org. And there are groups like Journeyman all across the country. There are groups called Boys to Men. There are groups called Journeyman. There's 3 other organizations that share our name. And we're hoping to expand and grow. So in the next year, we're looking for those next 5 cities that want to start a chapter. And we're excited to raise the $1 million or the few $1 million to make that happen, to fund people well to do good in their communities. And so our hope is to scale and grow in that way. And if you want to be a part of it, reach out to us. We're pretty small. We're fairly accessible as an organization. We're happy to help.
Planting a seed. Journeyman Triangle, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Journeyman Chattanooga. Let's do it.
Journeyman Chattanooga, Kenny Andrzejewski, Jordan Bowman, Brandon Clift, maybe. There's someone in Men Who Chat. Yeah, there's someone in Men Who Chat who can own this, really own this, and I'll do the Brandon Clift thing and just toss gasoline on it. But brother, it's going to happen, man. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And so I'm thinking at 2 levels of scale here. There's just the easy, accessible, spend time with your nephew, maybe big brothers, big sisters, like something that's already in your neighborhood and established. And then there's for those of you, so of the 86% listening, who is the 0.5% of you listening right now that gets it, like that truly understands the importance of this, that wants it, that wants to be involved and wants to make this a part of your life, and then has the capacity to do it. If you score 3s out of 3s on all 3 of those, then get in touch with Jordan, get in touch with Journeyman Triangle, and make it, plant the seed, see what happens. One thing I've learned in all the things I've scaled and built is that what I initially set out thinking was going to be the thing this was all for, and all the things that I thought were going to happen as a result of whatever thing we were scaling and building, those visions were so shallow and no way near the scope and scale of what actually happened, the relationships created, the impact had on the lives of others. It's not some end vision that's going to make the impact happen. It's not the 2,500, that's the scale. Yeah, 2,500 boys that you're impacting by 2030. You're already doing it. It's the 100 kids already getting served. That itself is so powerful. Think about their kids and their kids' and the kids at their peer level, that they're recognizing this change in them and they're wanting to get a part of it. So if you are thinking at scale, just know that it's going to be fulfilling early. You're going to feel it. That impact's going to happen. It just all comes down to where you keep your perspective as you roll. I'm saying this, but no one can say it better than you, my friend.
That's good. Yeah. And it's 100 young men who are with us for 2 to 4 years, who we're doing thousands of mentoring hours. And so they're a part of a community. They're essentially like, yes, you can look at statistics. We can say like 100% of boys in the Raleigh journeyman program are more hopeful about the future. Awesome. That's cool. Whoa. What does that feel like? What does that mean when you lean into it? But what you can't capture are things like Josiah, like a ROPOP participant who's like, I feel much more alive than I ever have before after his weekend. He says, I feel like I belong to a community now. And I have a goal and I'm pursuing it. I mean, just that, if that happens for one kid in your community, because you have a group of conscious men who've said, hey, we need to like figure out what's going on with the boys and we need to show up for them. That's it. That's perfect. You've won. That's the whole thing. That's the whole program. And then you do it times 100, and then you do it times 2,500. That changes the culture of masculinity in the United States. I mean, it gives me chills when I think about it, because it not only affects the boys in our community, it's their mentors who have a sense of meaning and purpose. We have created one of the most beautiful, sustained communities I've ever been a part of. And I want more people to experience that gift, both from the mentors and the mentee side. And so there are ways that are easy and obvious for me that you might not yet have access to, that I'm excited to share with all of you. It's time. It's time to do something about it. We need to build resilient, independent, interdependent, emotionally mature men, the men of tomorrow. And what better place to start than with men from the Mankind Project and from different men's group organizations who have already said yes to the call to adventure of their own life, of their own relationship with masculinity, and have said, you know what, that's great. First step, awesome. Next step is to get preventative, to go upstream and to think about the young men coming after me.
It's not after the fact, right? It's before they hit the iceberg. There is no more empowering experience than going from the hero of the story to the guide. You're not throwing the evil ring in the volcano anymore, Frodo. Like, you're Gandalf now. Like, graduate. It's time to graduate. If you're listening and you've been doing that men's work, you've been doing the deep work, the shadow work, the deep, dark, nitty gritty stuff that's given you some perspective, that's made you more sustainable in your parentage, in your work, in your relationships, don't be stingy with that gift. Don't be stingy with it. It's there to give. Step into that guide archetype and help this next generation come through. I think that, more than anything, should be a collective civic duty.
Yeah.
Than voting.
Well, and
paying taxes.
Yeah, I mean, voting is a great part of your civic duty, but it's like 3%,
5%, right?
Yeah, 5%, right? Yeah. It's people that you're around, it's people that you share space with, and to expand on the Lord of the Rings reference, I think about Gandalf didn't just become Gandalf overnight. Like, he probably was a Boromir at one point, right? Like, there is the Frodo to Boromir to Aragorn to Gandalf trajectory somewhere where Gandalf has the confidence. He's not thinking like, what if they don't like me? What if these teens, 6, 7, me? Like, what? He's not worried about that because he's built this confidence. But I think a character like Boromir is more like, he's more in his like egocentric power and control domain. Where the unknown of adolescence, that the intensity of that scares him. And so, anyways, I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, as you know. But
I love archetypes. I'm seeing the spectrum right now. And if I could, Tolkien check you, I'm really thinking that like Gollum is on one end of the spectrum because he's just purely about like this external love and validation it gets from this ring. And then on the other spectrum, you've actually got Aragorn. I think he really, these male spaces love to talk about how Aragorn is one of the greatest fictional characters for healthy masculinity. You're not going to get any opposing arguments here from me. But yeah, like that to me is the spectrum in so many ways, because, oh God, this is a dangerous rabbit hole. But he is literally standing at the gates of Mordor, ready, the last stand, the only soldiers. They're like tapped out 10-1 against the enemy, and they have no idea if Frodo's thrown the ring in the volcano, but they're like, for Frodo, and they charge into battle. It's just that selflessness, that willing to be a part of something bigger. In that moment, he's just a cog in a greater story, and he's okay with that. He's not, I need to be the king of Gondor, and I need to, blah, blah. No, That's not the focus. So anyway, I feel like you and I could do a series on this. This would be a lot of fun.
We should do a whole Lord of the Rings podcast. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. The most applicable lessons from the Silmarillion and everything in Tolkien's kind of great, the whole lore.
The gates of Gondor used to be, the gates of Mordor used to be the gates of Gondor. And Tolkien talks about how that force of evil was just people who were forgotten. And so it's like interesting, unseen, forgotten. So where are we forgetting and unseen boys? Let's pay attention to that, right? Even Frodo's compassion for Gollum, knowing that he might become that. He has the capacity for either. There's some beautiful metaphors in there that are just amazing. And Aragorn's a hero of mine. When I think about mentoring, I think about Mr. Rogers and I think about Aragorn, and I like to have them both right here.
Mr. Rogers and Aragorn. Yeah. I love that. That is, oh my gosh. Firstly, we've been friends for a long time. Did we just become best friends?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes. I need to get you on my Marco Polo app and we can just geek out on this stuff. But like, yes, it's like Aragorn, Mr. Rogers, and there's a journal entry. I need to find it somewhere. It's in that book over there 3 years ago. And it's like, what is the identity I'm building? It's Mr. Rogers. It's I didn't have Aragorn, but he's going in there. It was like Mr. Rogers and Teddy Roosevelt. There's like a link. There's a link between those two, and somewhere in the middle where it lands. And now Aragorn's become a part of that triangle.
Love it. I love it.
Beautiful, man. Anyway, at risk of making this a 2-hour episode, we're going to call it there. Of course, brother, having you back on the show, getting to spend time with you in person was really special. Having you in this medium, in this platform, and the conversation we just had, mate, ripples. Let's say, this is going to have 2,000-3,000 people listen to it. There's going to be one mentor minimum coming out of this conversation, having a serious impact on one boy. And that is going to serve the complete purpose of us having this conversation. And that is me completely minimizing the actual scope and scale that this conversation is probably going to have on others. So for those of you listening right now and you feel that fire in your belly, don't procrastinate on this. Just find the most accessible way that you can get involved in working with boys and young men, because they need it now more than ever. And you've got something to give. You have that fire because you know you've got something to give. So get out of the way of you giving your gifts and just go and give them.
It's place-based, culturally relevant rites of passage experiences, which are ceremonies of maturity. That's it. They will connect young men to a community of big brothers, cool uncles, and grandpas that will steer them towards an upward trajectory in life. And if you're curious of how to build that, let us know. We'll help you build it. It doesn't need to be under our brand name. We're excited if it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And it's time. It's beyond time to do something about this. So, be the hero. Go from the Frodo to the hero to the mentor in your story. And we're excited to be a small part of that if we can.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Jordan, pleasure to have you with us, my friend. And of course, as always, the greatest thanks goes to you, the listeners who show up each and every week for this, the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove that there is, in fact, more than one way to be a man. Jordan, have we done that today?
Yes.
Damn right we did. Sure. Lots of love, and we'll see you next week. This has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. We have been your host, Boyson Hodgson, and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the Mankind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.